We recording?
Yep.
Great. Alright, hello there. Today I'm going to show you how to put together the form for the CE 563 beam project. Before you get started, you'll want to gather up your materials. All the lumber's been pre-cut, but you'll still want to get everything you need together. You will need 4 72-inch lengths of 2x4, 4 14-inch lengths of 2x4, 4 8-inch lengths of 2x4, and 6 5-inch lengths of 2x4. You'll also need 2 6x8-inch plywood end caps, 2 8-inch by however long this is, 80 inches lengths of plywood, and 1 14-inch by 80-inch length of plywood. You'll also want to get a drill. A clamp is highly recommended. You'll want to have your assembly plans, pencil to mark the lumber width, tape measure, and an 1/8 inch drill bit. The exact diameter doesn't matter, but you need this for drilling pilot holes for your screws. We have 2 lengths of screws here. Short screws, which are 1.25 inches long, and long screws, which are 3 inches long. We're going to use the short screws whenever we're drilling through plywood into a 2x4, and the long screws whenever we're going from one 2x4 into another. We'll get started by building the bottom piece. For the bottom piece, you'll need the 14-inch wide length of plywood and all 4 of your 14-inch long sections of 2x4. Take your tape measure, mark the 14-inch length of plywood, eight inches from the end, and 33 inches from the end. You'll want to do this on both ends. You'll notice this particular piece of plywood has a bit of a warp to it. That's not a problem. It'll get straightened out in the end. These marks don't need to be super exact. I'll let you know when we get something that does need to be precise. I find it helpful to just draw a straight line across using one of your 14-inch blocks. You'll want to set one 14-inch length of 2x4 up the narrow way standing under each mark you made. If your board warps up like this, the middle ones will probably get knocked over as you're drilling, but there we go. Take your drill. We have some cordless ones too if you don't like the corded. I get tired of changing battery packs. And you're going to sink 2 pilot hole bits near the end, one side and the other, for each 2x4. And again, the exact position doesn't matter. Once you've got your pilot hole bits drilled, we're going to put the short screws in, since it's plywood into 2x4. And your bottom piece is complete. We'll set this aside for now and assemble the side pieces. For the side piece, you'll need, for each side piece rather, you'll need one of the 8-inch lengths of plywood, one of 8-inch widths of plywood, 3 of the 5-inch lengths of 2x4, and 2 of the 72-inch lengths. You're going to need to build 2 side pieces total. Start by setting the 72-inch lengths on the ground. And put 3 5-inch lengths between them. One on each end, and then one right at the middle. These are 72-inch lengths boards, so the middle piece goes at about 36 inches. Again, get it close to the middle, but it doesn't have to be super precise. While not necessary, here's a good spot to clamp it. It'll make the next step easier. Bar clamps are in the structure's wood shop next to the high bay. Again, you'll want to drill a pilot hole, total of 6, 1 on each side for each 2x4.
It's right there.
Oh, thank you. Brass-colored drill bit on a rust-colored cart. Not the easiest thing to see. And again, put one about midway in the 2x4. I'll show you on, well, I'll drill on this side and show you on this one. Try to avoid knot holes if you can. They're harder to drill through, harder to screw through, and it'll just give you a lot of grief. You can, if you need. Now we're going from 2x4 to 2x4, so we need the long screws. These can be a little tricky to get in. I recommend you just keep the drill going slow and apply steady pressure. If you end up stripping the head like that, just take the bit out, put a new one in. See, I went slower that time, it went in just fine. This might twist a little, that's okay. Do the same for the other 2 pieces. Once you get half of them in, you can usually take the clamp out. The piece will still be free to rotate, so be careful there. And usually once you can set it upright like this, it's a lot easier. Once you've gotten your 6 pieces in, you start it out like this. I recommend you flip it over so that the, oh, I did flip it over, so that the flush side, the side you had down, ends up up. That way you've got a nice level surface for the plywood to get attached to. Screws don't go in, no. You will then take your 8-inch width of plywood. There's going to be a cleaner side and a rougher side. Put the rougher side down. It should fit flush, height-wise, on the 2x4 frame you just made. You should set it so there's a 4-inch overhang roughly on each side. And don't pinch your finger between the plywood and the 2x4 when you kneel on it. 4 inches. Again, you'll drill some pilot holes. I recommend 6 or 8, depending on how worked your board is. I'm going to do 8. 4 on top, 4 on bottom. Exact placement doesn't matter, but try to get at least 1 on each corner or near it. There's your side piece. Do that again to make 2 of them. I'm just that quick. The final piece you need to make is your end cap. You'll need what's left. The little piece of plywood and 2 8-inch lengths of 2x4. Again, you'll need to make 2 of these. Set your 2x4s down, upright on the ground, and the plywood on top. Make a little table. Make sure there's one end where the plywood and 2x4s are flush. This will be your bottom. The other end, there's going to be some overhang, that's fine. Likewise, make sure the plywood does not, or the 2x4s do not overhang the plywood on the sides. It's okay if they do it a little bit, but if it's really bad, you're going to need to tape up your form before you use it. And you can adjust the position of the 2x4 later, because I'm probably going to knock the piece out. Oh, forgot to drill a pilot hole. You might get lucky and not drill without drilling pilot holes if you're going plywood in the 2x4, but it will splinter a little more. It won't always go in as cleanly, and you do run the risk of splintering something. There you go. As you can see, we've got some overhang on one side. That's fine. That'll be the top. The bottom should be flush. You'll repeat that to get 2 end caps. Once you've done that, it's time to assemble everything. Your bottom piece, true to name, goes on the bottom. Your side pieces will go on each side. No bonus points for guessing where the end pieces go. Set them down, get the side pieces flush along the axis of the beam, and the overhanging plywood should come to the end of the bottom piece. It's okay if it's a bit off. Your end piece should go such that the end of the plywood is flush with the end of the 2x4, or close to it. And I'll adjust that here in a minute, if needed. Same thing on this end here. This is another good time to use a clamp. Span your central 2x4s and just apply a little pressure. Not a whole lot. You don't want to make the thing bow in significantly. Which we're doing right now, but I'll fix that in a minute. Make sure your end piece is square or close to it. Depending on how good or bad your plywood and 2x4s were, you may notice you have a bit of a warp. The first thing we're going to do is take care of that. We're going to drill 2 pilot holes on each side, top and bottom, going through this plywood into this 2x4. That'll hold the side pieces and the end pieces together. It'll also take care of any warping you've got. Alright, you're almost done. All you need to do now is attach your side and end pieces to the bottom. If you need to, adjust the position, although that's not critical so long as everything inside has plywood underneath it. I recommend you put in 4 screws per side for a total of 8. Actually, you'll want to come around to this side of the camera. And what you're going to want to do is when you drill your pilot hole, you're going to want to go in at an angle. We're going to try to toe in to these cleats we put in the bottom. Do not go from the bottom up. You need to remove these screws that I'm putting in now in order to take your form apart. And if you have to flip the form over with 300 pounds of concrete in it, it's going to make your life a lot more difficult. Get your long screws. And sink them in. These ones don't have to be flush. You want to make sure you're definitely going into the bottom piece. Make sure you don't make that angle too steep. If you end up going in like that, you're not going to hit the bottom either. If you can slide it without the top piece sliding with respect to the bottom, that lets you know you're doing it right. There you have it. Once you've done that, get a Sharpie Label it. With your name, with C563, your group number, and the contact number for whoever your group leader is. Put back all tools where you found them. Put the screws back too. Any unused screws, clean up the floor. And you're all set. Thanks and good luck.